Hi there, it's
Hi.
Danica and Mark, and it's late. We just had dinner at Chaya, and it was just so good.
It was so good.
We always go, we like eating there. And we're going to do the reading from The Golden Present, Daily Inspirational Readings by Sri Swami Satchidananda. And today is April 9th, and so we're just opening the book, just reading it, and then spontaneously sharing our thoughts on this 9:25 p.m. evening of April 9th. If you want to, you can do it. When you want to cultivate something, you have to look for a little culture. The same is true if you want to cultivate faith. Think of all the sayings, all the great teachings, and apply them in your life. Before a farmer cultivates, what does he do? He first prepares the soil by taking out all the stones and twigs, leveling the ground, loosening the soil, putting in some manure, aerating it, and then planting some good seed. In our own lives, we have to go through a similar preparation. The seeds are the good thoughts from the scriptures and the great sages and saints. Put them in and nurture them. Let them grow in your life. Cultivation is not that easy. It takes effort, but certainly if you want to, you can do it. To achieve the small things in life, you have to work very hard. But to achieve the spiritual goals, everything is done once you have that faith.
When a person is trying to cultivate faith, there will be hundreds of things to come and disturb it. There will be tests. Immediately, things will come to create doubt in your life. Somebody will say, God, enlightenment? Why worry about all that? Enjoy life. You are missing so many nice things by concentrating on the spiritual life. It is not just in this age. For millions of years, the same thing has happened. There are so many temptations to forget about spirituality. Free me from temptation is one of the most important prayers. Take me to the real pasture where I can graze. Do not take me into the areas where I will be distracted. Have sincere, heartfelt prayer. It is not easy to build faith. Keep praying. God, please help me. Let me see the truth always.
Yeah, you're part of the video always, Tuna. Not to worry. You're involved. What a reading for tonight.
Mm-hmm.
We should have read this before dinner.
Wow. So
we just got home, so Tuna is usually extra noisy. She just ate. Spiritual growth. Cultivation is not that easy. It takes effort. I mean, for me, I couldn't help but to think about, my business I'm trying to build, and like, it feels like I'm trying to, cultivate the practices that I've done into, even the spiritual teachings, and to apply those into my business. So that I'm using mindfulness. I'm using, a lot of, like fairness and, I don't know, stuff. Tired.
Yeah.
But it's challenging. Like there's that part of me that has wanted to just say it's too hard.
Yeah, I think that is challenging. I think when you're trying to start a business and you're in that place of like wanting it to be healthy and fair and all that, a lot of like, high level business people are ruthless, and
that's how they get stuff done.
So it's beautiful what you're doing, because you're actually doing more, everything you're doing, whether it's about spirituality or not, is a spiritual business, right? So I like what it says, in as you grow this business yourself, that's challenging, and then you have doubt, like it talks about, there will always be doubt when you're going through something, but how you could think how the farmer how he cultivates it by taking out all the stones and twigs, by leveling the ground, by loosening the soil. So as you're working on your business, doing those things.
True.
You should definitely put in some manure.
How about cat poop?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good reminder. I like when Swami Satchidananda is good at making these analogies, which tend to be so helpful for my brain to apply it in that kind of a way. And yeah, it's like so much effort to make these things grow. They don't just happen overnight. And he talks also about you can't pull on the little teeny seedling and try to make it turn into a tree. It really needs to go through its process.
Yeah.
So where is this for you in your life?
Well, I think of it actually when I first began my spiritual practice because of this line where it's saying when a person is trying to go cultivate faith, which essentially is when a person is beginning their spiritual practice and they're having, the intention of that.
Yeah.
There will be hundreds of things to come and disturb it. There will be tests. Immediately things will come to create doubt in your life. And, when I was young and first growing...
This is a test.
First learning how to grow my own spiritual practice and grow spiritually myself, it's not very fun when you first begin, because a lot of times you have to untangle yourself from the things that were not so healthy, so like you're pulling the stones and twigs, you're leveling the ground. Those are hard things. It's hard work. Yeah,
because you were attached to them. You believe that that's what you needed, or that was part of what made you. And to go through that phase of
that's what makes you, and then you realize that isn't, and then your whole world is blown open, and then you don't know who you are, and then it's sort of finding the ground of like, who am I if I'm not all these things, and
that's when we probably want to give up.
Exactly.
You just want to give up and go back
towards the things that you know are familiar with, are comfortable, even if they're uncomfortable. So
to be in that place you were just saying, where who am I, what's important to me, that's where we're almost feeling so vulnerable.
Yeah.
We don't want that. We want to feel like we're back in control. But that's exactly that moment where things switch, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think, I think Tuna really has something to say about it.
Should we bring you in here? Okay, I think...
I'd like also how it says for millions of years, the same things have been happening. This is, for millions of years, people have been holding cats. You okay? Oh.
I haven't been home all day. Or no.
But we think, how it's saying for millions of years, the same thing has happened. There's so many temptations to take you out of it, whatever. But like spiritual practice has been... It's always there, right? So for millions of years, then there's always a reason to turn away from it, but there's always a reason to turn towards it. So even if you have reasons to stay away.
And it seems like it's part of its weird course is for it to be hard.
Yeah, it's
right. It's not this soft landing into the spirit. It's actually a very difficult path in that regard, because it does require you to have that period of the unknown with you.
Yeah. And, it requires you to do a lot of things you might not want to do. And that's where it becomes very difficult because it becomes a choice. You either choose to walk through the fire of those difficulties to get to the other side of the wholeness of what it is to have a spiritual practice.
Yeah.
Or you keep doing what you're doing.
And that happens, right? A lot of people end up keep doing what they're doing. They feel that back and forth ping pong ball going from one side to the other. Until... Is that what you're feeling? Yeah?
Yeah, maybe. And generally, what requires... what that last thing you said makes me think of is... it almost always, I found this to be true when I'm talking to people about their journeys, is you have to do the one thing you don't want to do. The biggest, most hugest, most absolutely never not want to ever.
Really? You have to think about what that is for me.
Almost always. That's almost always the case because, which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Your biggest attachment is, it's your greatest nemesis to your spirit.
That's powerful.
So mine certainly, what I had to walk through was certainly not my favorite thing.
Well, and I look at what you have built, and your organic salon, and it's so beautiful and successful and doing well. Like you're doing well, so it's cool to see you really have found that something has pierced through into this path of success, but in a way that feels very mindful and thoughtful. You know,
Yeah.
not I can,
Yeah. That feels. It's probably not, but that feels more like luck. Lots of people on their spiritual path don't get that too. You know,
Yeah,
that feels
true.
more like a blessing, maybe.
Blessing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, if you want to, you can do it. That's what Swami Satchidananda is saying tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And it's. I'm hoping that Tuna's gonna want to relax, but she seems to. You're gonna have to give her a lot of attention once we say goodnight here.
Mm-hmm.
But thanks for joining, Danica. Thanks for joining me again.
My pleasure.
Thought we'd be in our new home to see that space, but that'll be soon. So we'll do a video from there soon.
It looks beautiful though.
It does.
It's already
very
on its way.
cool. Very cool space. All right. Thank you all. Have a good night or good morning.